Hey y'all, welcome to the Recovery Academy. Today I am sharing my personal story from orthorexia to recovery warrior. I'm gonna get vulnerable, I'm gonna get a bit personal, and I'm gonna share my struggle and how I got here to you today. So if you're ready, let's do this. Hey y'all, Dr. Steph with the Recovery Academy, where I share with you every week tips, tricks, and no bullshit tools to help make recovery possible for you. Today, I'm sharing my personal story, talking about how I had orthorexia, and now here I am, this recovery warrior, where every single day I help people overcome anxiety, depression, trauma, body image issues, and eating disorders. So let's get in and let's get a little bit personal, shall we? So I feel a bit vulnerable sharing all of this today. As a therapist, we're taught to be a blank slate and we're taught to not self-disclose. But one of the things I love about this YouTube opportunity is that I get to be me and I get to kind of relate and share on a more personal level because I'm not in a therapeutic relationship with any of you. I'm just trying to give y'all information, tips, tricks, and tools. I've known pretty much my whole life that I wanted to be a therapist. I didn't know what that meant at a young age. I just knew that I was fascinated by people, and I found people really cool and really interesting. I found people really special, and I thought it was cool that we all thought and did things differently, but yet we had this similar life experience, right? That life just seems hard for all of us, but yet people have these really cool stories. So I was fascinated on just psychology of people and behavior and things. So my professional story is a bit dull in that I knew I was going to go to school and I was going to study psychology. However, when I first was going into graduate school, I was really interested and fascinated, maybe fascinated isn't the right word. I was interested in trauma. I have a heart for, I always used to say that's not fair and I want things to be fair, because I want things to be fair, and it seemed so unfair that people would be hurt and harmed for no reason. Trauma just happens and you didn't ask for it, you didn't do anything to cause it, and I had so much just compassion for people who had experienced traumatic experiences. So I wanted to work with trauma. So go undergrad school, do all of that. And my very, very first job out of graduate school was that I had the privilege to help develop and start the eating disorder program at Timberline Knolls. In fact, I helped start Timberline Knolls. And that was an amazing experience. I learned about trauma, but I was able to really learn about eating disorders because it was a 6-week training process while we were developing the program. I'm gonna spare y'all the details of the professional stuff because that's not so interesting. I did move back home to Texas after a while and started working at a children's advocacy center. And it was an amazing opportunity. I loved it. I loved the work. I loved my coworkers. I loved it. What I didn't love was listening to trauma all day long, every single day. That was all I had on my caseload was trauma. And there's nothing wrong with that. What I wasn't prepared for was how that was going to affect me emotionally. I was young. I was fresh out of graduate school. Well, about a year or so out of graduate school. I was single. I was living in this town that I had never lived before. And there's ego, I think, being a therapist. Again, we're taught like we're above it all and we're supposed to have everything all figured out and we're supposed to be okay and not crazy. And so I wasn't admitting that I wasn't okay. I wasn't telling my supervisor or my colleagues or my friends that I was pretty depressed and anxious. I was spending a lot of time feeling very emotionally overwhelmed. And so I needed an outlet for that. We all need an outlet for that. That's not unhealthy. So what started for me is just like this innocent, I want to, take care of myself. I want to find an outlet to feel less depressed and less anxious, turned into an obsession with dieting and exercise. And I don't want to trigger people, so I'm not going to get super specific on like how I did that. Let's just say that starting at about age 26, I started dieting, and it was extreme dieting, and it was all I could think about. In between client sessions, I would be planning meals and counting calories. In between client sessions, I would be thinking about my next workout. I would work out multiple times a day, and it was never enough. Like I was never dieting hard enough. I was never working out hard enough. Because I wasn't taking care of my emotions and I wasn't taking care of myself, all of that bad, icky sadness, anxiety just sat in my body. And I felt uncomfortable. I felt, fat. I felt disgusting. I felt like my body was wrong. And so it just kept driving this desire to lose weight and change my body, and this like, let me diet harder, let me work out harder, because eventually I'm going to get my body to a place that, I'll feel good at. Newsflash, that never, ever, ever happened. I never felt good about my body. It even snowballed into, fine, let me start fitness instructing. And at that time, that became my identity. I was no longer the therapist. I was no longer Stephanie. I was the fitness instructor. I was this vision of health, right? And so when people saw me, I wanted them to see this fitness instructor, this healthy body, this healthy person. But that's not who I am. I'm so much more than that. So I wasn't living my values. I wasn't living up to my full potential. I was really keeping myself small, literally and psychologically. And because that wasn't a good fit for me, right, there was all this conflict and all of that emotional upset that I just thought, let me keep dieting, let me keep working out, and again, eventually that's going to get me to a place where I feel better in my body. I eventually did fitness competitions thinking, hey, maybe that will help me get my goal body and I'll feel better about myself. But let me be real honest, okay? And if you're a fitness competitor watching this video and I offend you, or you're a fitness coach watching this video and I offend you, I'm sorry. I'm just speaking my truth. But I know this is true for many, many other people because I've talked to them. I have clients that have said this exact thing to me. When you're in it and you're competing, I went around and I told everybody, oh, it's so fun and it's so great. I'm just trying to see what my body can do and blah, 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 blah. What I wasn't honestly telling people was I want to be skinny and I need my body to look a certain way to feel okay about myself. And so I'm starving myself. I'm making myself miserable. I'm depressed and I'm anxious, but I can't admit that to anybody because that goes against this value in this body and this persona that I was trying to create. Well, eventually, I had all kinds of health issues. I did lose my period because I got too thin. And I'm not even going to get into the consequences of that now. But I wasn't okay. Like I was anxious AF all the time. I didn't know what to eat. I would short circuit in the kitchen, working out. Like I would walk into the gym and I didn't know what to do. Something had to change. My relationships were being affected by this desire and this drive to be working out and eating a certain way. I couldn't go eat with friends. I couldn't go eat with family. I was missing out on everything and so much. The bottom line is that I wasn't living my life. I was just a slave to dieting and the gym. I professionally, at part of this time, I did take a break from counseling because I was burned out from all of the trauma because I wasn't taking care of myself. I was taking care of myself through diet and exercise, which is good, but can't be the only way that you take care of yourself. So I burned out and I stayed in the field but took on a totally different role. So it was about the time that I started my private practice that I started wanting to learn more about eating disorders. We needed a specialist in the area. I had experience working with eating disorders. I had the experience of being at Timberline Knolls. So it felt very natural to say, hey, I want this to be a specialization of mine. And quickly I realized I had a problem. I had what is called orthorexia, an obsession with healthy eating. I had exercise bulimia, and because I would go and just try to, like, it was never enough exercise for me. That combined with my own journey into intuitive eating, my own journey into therapy, I'd been in therapy on and off throughout this whole process looking for balance in my life because I always felt out of balance and felt like wrong. That as I was, going in and getting this specialization for eating disorder, it all kind of started to click for me of, whoa, Stephanie, you had orthorexia, and eating intuitively, getting some therapeutic support, realizing that my value is not in my body, realizing that I had value in all of these other areas of my life, realizing that my body changed and I was going to be okay, realizing that I could live my life and do wonderful, amazing things without dieting and exercise. It clicked of like, oh, like I don't have to live this way anymore. I don't have to be a slave to the gym. I don't have to be a slave to food all of the time. I can eat whatever I want and be healthy and be happy and be successful at the same time. I can put weight back on my body, get my period back, buy new clothes, but my changing body has nothing to do with my ability as a person to be loved, to have friends, to be accepted, to belong, and to be able to do really awesome things. Then I learned all about these eating disorders and how to treat them. And so the combination of the two, my own professional experience and my own personal lived experience, I am able to sit here today before you and say, recovery is 100% possible. Is it easy? Absolutely not. There are a lot of individual issues and a lot of individual factors that go into recovery. And so my story isn't going to look like your story, and it's not going to look like your journey. But I think it's important to share this story to put some insight on bodybuilding competitions and orthorexia, because it's a disease that we don't talk much about, and to say that this is why I'm so passionate about this issue. Is I did live with my body changing. I did go through the process of dieting what felt like it was a legit decade, and then coming to a place of eating intuitively and having freedom with food and being able to accept my body at whatever weight it's at. Right? So I'm very passionate about this issue. And so I lived it and I learned it. And now I get to share it with you all through the Recovery Academy, but I also get to share it and teach it and help clients live this for themselves and unpack these things that are keeping them stuck in dieting and keeping them stuck in overexercise and keeping them stuck in eating disorder behaviors and anxiety and depression, and help them find a way to live their happiest, healthiest, balanced life. I think lastly, I want to say that learning to love yourself and accept yourself in this world that tells us not to is a very brave act. It's not an easy act. It requires crying. It requires being vulnerable. It requires, sitting with tough stuff. But doing that is what makes people strong. Doing that is what allows us to have that balance. I can't have positive emotions without the hard stuff. So the hard stuff makes me stronger. It makes me more appreciative. It makes me more grateful of the positive, happy, wonderful things in life, right? For you to go on this journey to love yourself and accept yourself and overcome these mental health issues is hard, but so worth it. And if you feel not okay, that's okay, but you don't have to stay stuck there. You're allowed to learn how to feel more comfortable in your body and with yourself. So I can't believe I just got through my personal story of from orthorexia to recovery warrior without a lot of tears, without breaking out into an emotional fit. So thank you for listening. Thanks for allowing me to be vulnerable with you here. So if this sounds like something you can relate to, or if you appreciate me sharing my story, like this video, share it. You never know, you may have someone that's in your life that is feeling really stuck with food and really stuck with their body, and hearing this story may help them get the help and support that they need, or the motivation that, hey, you don't have to keep feeling this way. Check out all the links I have below. Lots of free resources for you, lots of support resources for you, and some videos to continue going on this journey. Let's keep talking about orthorexia, because in my opinion, it's an eating disorder that we don't talk enough about. Don't forget to subscribe. New videos are coming all the time. Thursday, you're gonna get a therapy tip, and then on Monday, you're gonna get a video like this where I talk about recovery issues. Next week, I'm gonna give you some information on how to talk to your support, set some boundaries with support, and how to help educate them or tell them how they can best support you in your recovery journey. So subscribe so that you are notified when that video becomes live. I'd love to hear from you, so comment below, ask any questions. What did you like? What don't you like? What do you need to hear more about? I promise you are not bothering me if you comment or you email me, because the more that you tell me, the more information I'm able to give back to you. That's all I have for you this week. I'll see you next week. Bye.